met Dean Martin. I saw him. Sammy Davis was a friend. But that era is gone because now all these guys sit home with their computer and Pro Tools and make a record. You just steal a rhythm and play a record. These guys were guys that, played on the road. I was friends with Frankie Lane, Tony Bennett. Jerry Vale used to go to Cafe Roma every Saturday with his wife. Al Martino I did a gig with, stuff like that. But you'll never see that again. It's like blues guys. You'll never see guys like Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and B.B. King and Freddie. It's gone. They came from an era where they really came from the South. They were real blues guys. We just imitate it, because we like it. No, I like playing blues guitar because I have ADD and PTSD, so I can't remember shit. So if blues is great, I just make up stuff as I go along. In other words, I can't play anything really structured. I was always in envy of guys that could listen to a record and play the licks on the Beatles perfect. I couldn't do it. I just might lose my train of thought. So I do the best I can. But yeah, you'll never see that again. You'll never see anything like the Beatles ever again. Not that wrote those kinds of songs or the Rolling Stones. I mean, if you think about music, who do you have out there that's like really ballsy, like Led Zeppelin or The Who or the Kinks or the Stones? I think, the last of that, probably that hard rock was probably the Allman Brothers, Tom Petty, and Aerosmith. But if you look at the groups now, it's all like a production number. Like when I was a kid, they'd be laughed off stage. Guys dancing with girls in the back with all these lights. That was like that's an act you would see at the Latin Casino. Not like at a rock, you know what I mean? So that's another club I never went to, the Latin Casino.
Yeah, I heard of it. It was a little bit before my time.
Cherry Hill, yeah, but that, you name it, they played there from Dean Martin to Frank Sinatra. They all played those places. And so I caught the tail end of that stuff.
Palumbo's, which you mentioned earlier, and which unfortunately burned down. I think it was in '93. That was my first job. I was a busboy. I was like, I don't even know if I was 13 or 14, and that place was huge. It was beautiful, and everybody sang there. Before Atlantic City, Palumbo's was the spot. Everybody would go to Palumbo's.
Davis, they all sang there. Or they sang at that place in Jersey, the 51 Club or something, like Skinny.
The 500 Club maybe or something?
500 Club. Yeah, they all played. Well, they didn't play stadiums in those days, And I remember I went to Palumbo's. God, it had to be 1961. And I was there with my stepfather. And my stepfather grew up on Mifflin Street.
Really?
South. Yeah, and Juniper Street. Yeah. And I remember, couldn't take my eyes off the drum set. Couldn't take my eyes off the guys playing in the band. And it was really cool. Heavy Italian, man. Big time Italian. And my stepfather was good friends with Frank Palumbo and his wife, Kippy, who was an actress. He did movies in the 40s. And I remember it was really cool. And I remember I had a wallet. My father, I guess they sold, and it was a black, like one of these fold in half wallets, and it said CR Club, which CR Club was kind of the annex to Palumbo's. Yeah. And then, all those great restaurants like Bookbinders.
Yeah, I worked there.
Did you really? You were
I worked at all the neighborhood places. I worked at Palumbo's, Dante and Luigi's, Ralph's. I worked at all those places. And then I worked at Bookbinders, Four Seasons, the Ritz-Carlton. I worked at,
God, did you ever work at Cuz's? I never was there.
It was renamed. So Cuz's closed down, and then it became Tarano's. And Tarano's was then it closed down and reopened. And I was there in the early mid-90s, right around the time Sinatra died, as a matter of fact. And I'm still friendly with the Martirano family, George Martirano, he's in
Florida, Steve Martirano.
That's Steve, yeah. That's his cousin.
Saloon's still there?
Still there. I'll tell you, man, that place, you cannot get a seat in there. And actually, Joe Cortese was there when he came.
I was never there.
Yeah.
When we were doing Rocky, I never went to Saloon. I remember we were at the Victor Cafe. That's where we did the movie, which is kind of an interesting place. The guy was an opera freak, and, it was an old restaurant.
Yeah.
The Victor. Yeah. And, of course, it was named Adrian's in the movie. But, yeah, I remember Philly had some great restaurants. And there was, Palumbo's, CR Club. But Bookbinders was famous for the lobster.
They had the largest lobster tanks in the world. And you used to have, every president, Sinatra had his own table there. It was called the President's Room. It's still there. You could go there. It's a different, smaller now, but it was called the President's Room, and it had all presidents, all pictures of all the presidents all over, and they had one picture like the Keystone over the archway. And it was Frank Sinatra.
Wow. Is it still there, Bookbinders?
Yeah, it's still there. Different owner. It's just limited to the bar area and the dining area. It's not used to seat like 500 people. Now it's smaller, but it's a shame. A lot of these places, Italian market's still good. Ville di Roma. There's still a lot of good little authentic places that are still
I
around.
remember I used to go to that when I lived in LA and I came back to Philadelphia. I remember I went to that club next to the Warwick, Second Story.
Yeah.
Remember that? The Warwick club up there. Yeah. And it was just different. But, it's wonderful to have memories of those places. I remember my mother and father went out and said, well, we lived in the Northeast, where we're going to go to Bookbinders, And I remember Joe Letizia was the local kind of legend knockaround guy. And Frank Fontaine was his friend. Frank Fontaine was always Crazy Guggenheim on the Jackie Gleason show. I remember I did these shows with my band when I was 15, 16. One show, we had to get up at 4:30 in the morning. It was a farm report show called The Bill Bennett Show. And it was a rock band. This is like a farm show. We did that. And then we did a show called Aquarama. In South Philly, there was it was like kind of like a SeaWorld inside.
Yeah.
And we thought we were like, my God, we've made it, man. Local TV. Aquarama, the Bill Bennett Show. I mean, unless you were a farmer, you didn't see the Bill Bennett Show. It was like, you were getting farm reports at 4 in the morning, 5:30, 6 in the morning, And yeah, it was fun. I got to tell you, if someone asked me what was more fun, the first part of your career or the second part, I would say the first part, because the innocence. I worked at Gino Marchetti's flipping hamburgers, in those days. And everything was so new. And all you had was life ahead of you. You're 15, so you could have 75 years ahead of you. So, you're filled with dreams, you're filled with expectations. And so it was fun. I mean, I talked to one of my guys that's still alive, and I had a group at that time called the American Tragedy. We won the Battle of the Bands, believe it or not.
Nice.
Yeah. Jay Cook was like the host, the DJ. And we were a good group. And I said, we have so much fun sitting there copying Beatles songs, loving Spoonful Stones. Give your kids. We still lived at home. Our parents had to drive us to the gig. No one drove, But it's like that movie, Summer of 42. There's something about the innocence of it that is beautiful, that you'll never capture again. There were no girlfriends. I mean, we were all shy, like we were goofy, afraid to ask a girl out, if we were in a band, parents stay away from those guys, But there was something so beautiful about it. And then you get into the business of it and you kind of get disappointed, you get jaded. You know what I mean? Like that innocence of youth. That's why it's so important for young kids to be able to stay young kids. I mean, honest to God, I go to the gym. I get up it's really weird for a musician. I get up at like 5 in the morning. I'm in the gym sometimes at 5:30. And everyone is so disconnected. Everyone has AirPods in, looking at their phones. And I told some guy, I said, man, if you worked out as much as you text, you'd be like Mr. America. Really. I mean, I don't wear headphones. I dress, wearing combat boots. I don't care. But the thing is, and it's so different. We were like shy, You'd meet a girl, you write her phone number down. Like if you were old enough to go to a bar, like on a matchbook cover, people go, well, how did you date? I said, pick up a phone. Well, yeah, you date. You didn't sit there texting. None of that stuff was going on. And there was something really interesting. So I went to a club with a friend of mine. It was more young people. I was just there. We just happened to walk in. We were going to grab something to eat. Honest to God, every girl there, they're sitting on these benches. Every one of them's like in their phone. I said, I feel sorry for these young guys. There are a lot of good-looking young college guys. These girls are buried in the phone. I said, who are you texting? She goes, my girlfriend. I said, where is she? She's over across the room. I said, my God, so disconnected. I mean, in our days, if you wanted to date, you had to work for it. I mean, you had to have some kind of rap or dialogue. Now it's like a bunch of robots. I mean, I look at LA, I see people crossing Wilshire Boulevard, headphones like this, not even looking. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, in our era, I'm a lot older than you, but in our era, that's how you got things done. You talk to people,
Yeah.
you know? But
Nah,
that's the generation.
yeah, they're losing that. They're becoming more like cyborgs. They're losing that personal effect with people. And but you're right. I'm noticing that I'm 47, but I'm noticing that too as you get older. It's you lose that sort of innocence. You become more cynical. You become more kind of like because you get wounded, you get beat up, you get kicked around, and then you're not as uplifted as you used to be as a kid. You had the world at your fingertips, but as you get older, you start to see the ugly parts of life.
Well, you see ugly parts of life, and and I listen to like kids, teenagers talk. They have no rap at all. They have no social skills. Yeah, my bad. You know what I mean? Yeah, right. Yeah, brother. Yeah, I mean, they have there's no dialogue. There's no like exchange. You go in the library, you can shoot a cannon in there. There's no one there. No one reads books. If you saw over here, I must in this room here have well over 1,000 books. And I probably gotten given away or traded half that amount. I was always a voracious reader. My mother always said, read. It's one thing you can take with you is your intelligence. You can't take that away. And sometimes I wasn't too intelligent, but I always had a love for reading books. And, when they want me to read a script, I'll email it to you. I said, no, send me the script. I'm not going to sit there and read a script online off the computer. I got to feel the pages, you know what I mean? But
Well,
that part has unfortunately left us. And it's really sad because kids, when you were a kid, you couldn't keep us in the house. We were always out doing something.
Yeah.
Now they just sit in, do the war games or whatever they do. And they're really missing out on life,
It's the electronics. I agree. One last question, then we'll let you go, Frank.
Yeah.
What you like the acting? Now, what would be something you would like to play? What's a character role or something that you would really be interested in doing?
Well, I'll tell you, my father, on my father's side, we always had horses. My father was a hairdresser, but he always had a farm too. So we grew up riding horses. And I love doing Tombstone. I love doing Westerns. I mean, and they just don't really make them. It'd be great to do like a periodic Western about some famous outlaw like John Wesley Hardin or something like that. Or, yeah, that's kind of what I would like to do, like Unforgiven or Open Range. One was like Lonesome Dove, some great Western. I mean, for a kid of my era, what's better? You're sitting on a horse with a pistol and you're shooting guys, chasing and stuff like that. And it was just, we grew up with all that stuff. The Lone Ranger,
Gunsmoke.
Yeah. And so, yeah, something like that would be interesting. Listen, I've always been cast as a bad. I can't tell you how many Vinny, Tonys, Anthony's, Carlos's I played. Every gangster, still to this day. But being the bad guy is actually more fun than being the good guy. Because the bad guy gives you a lot more leeway, to do stuff. But this year was really weird. I played a hockey coach. I played a hitman. But I don't get cast as like the tennis pro or that, But horror movies are fun to do. I mean, I did Tales from the Crypt with John Stamos. Never laughed my butt off. Because, you see the Crypt Keeper on the movies. It's a stupid puppet hanging on a wall that they use for the thing. So, like, it's really funny because there's nothing scary on the set. It's like you walk in, there's like all like dummies and props and stuff like that. So they're fun to do. But again, like I've done, close to 100 movies. I mean, gangster movies, done a few Westerns. In the early 80s, when I started, started doing movies. Of course, they couldn't get my brother, so I played these bad action heroes, kind of quasi, and they're terrible. I mean, I don't know martial arts. So, but some of them are so bad that they're actually brilliant. You couldn't consciously make a movie that bad. It's like Ed Wood. You couldn't go into and say, okay, I'm going to make the worst movie where the voice doesn't match the movement of the mouth. It's so cheap. You can see everything. I remember I played a knight, the Dark Knight. So they had a suit of armor on me made of rubber, like the helmet and everything like this. And it's so cheap. When I'm talking, the thing is moving. Like, it's supposed to be a suit of armor, but it's rubber. It's like, I said, you can't get, you know what? I said, you can't get any worse than this. I mean, I did some movies. I said, I played one for my brother. I did up in Calgary, and I played it for him. Never came out. And there were some good actors in it. Charlie Napier, who played the guy in Rambo, the guy that he was going after. Sonny Landham, who was in, 48 Hours. All these guys, but it was this cheesy movie. So I said, I got to watch this. I was on the ground convulsing in laughter. So he goes, this might be the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. Everything was out of sync. These Canadian actors. So where you going? It was just ridiculous. So, I mean, to me, that's the joy of it. I mean, even Jack Nicholson said, he goes, my first 27 movies were horrible. There's not an actor that hasn't done bad movies. It just comes with the territory. So there's a lot of humor in this business. There's a lot of letdown. But, I'm my age. I'm still in good health. I'm pretty blessed, man. When you think about it, I'm pretty blessed. My mom lived to 99. My father lived to 92. You take the good with the bad. And you just say, are you in for the long haul or are you not?
Well said. Well, Frank, I think in my opinion, you did very well. And looking back, I'm sure, everybody has a certain path and you come to that fork in the road. And I think you're the right side of the fork. So.
Well, Vinny, thank you so much for having me on your show. I hope your audience likes it. And, we just keep on. If I play Philly or the Hard Rock in Atlantic City, let you know. Come down as my guest.
Thank you. I think that once our Philly people and probably New York and Jersey people, once they watch this episode, I think you're going to reinvigorate their spirits. So we would love to definitely see you in the region. You ever come to Philly, we have plenty of places, including the saloon and many other places. Maybe we'll go with Joe.
I'll take you up on if I come to Philadelphia, Vinny. Yeah. Well, I thank you and thank the Philadelphia audience and Jersey audience. It's where I got my start, and I just hope you all have a blessed day, and let's hope we have a good year coming.
Our guest has been the amazing Frank Stallone. Please make sure, we're going to have links, make sure that you're following him on all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. Listen to his music, support Frank, and we would love to have you back whenever you like. In the meantime, thanks for joining us.